Hi everyone, it's Tarrah here with Tarrah TV, where we learn together about how to get more tips out of life and inspiration and guidance on topics related to lifestyle, business, family, and wellness. So this month, as you know, I've been talking to other entrepreneurs and different people in the military families. That was last week, and the week before that was teachers or education professionals. And then this week, I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk with healthcare professionals or former healthcare professionals and tell you a little bit about their stories and about how they became interested in the career path they have now. And today I have a very special guest with me, Kim Waggoner. Hi, Kim.
Hey, Tarrah.
Hey, I'm so glad to have you on. And I just wanted to mention that you have actually kind of a double-sided story here because you were a former healthcare professional, but you also have a personal health journey that you're going to be taking us through today a little bit too. So I just wanted to say thank you for sharing all of this information with us. And this is definitely one episode that you're going to want to listen carefully to if you're out there. And if you have questions, to leave them in the comments. We'd be happy to get back with you. Kim and I met just in person over, what has it been, 2 months now?
I think it has, yeah.
Oh.
It's flown past.
Yeah, so and I'll let her give her the opportunity to go ahead and tell you how we met and just a little bit about that and a little bit about her and her journey as a healthcare provider, tell you what she did and where she is now. So Kim, thank you for being on.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Tarrah and I, in person, like she said, just met a couple months ago. We both earned a cruise. And so we were cruising together and having dinner together and learning a little bit more about each other, personal stories. So that was just really neat. And then Tarrah reached out to me after she had heard my story and learned a little bit more. And I love to tell my story because I always love to tell my story for several different reasons. Most because I want to bring hope into whatever someone's situation is. And so I really love to share, my story. So a little bit about myself. I'm married. I have 2 children and 3 stepchildren. And I currently live, which is interesting. I'm currently living in a house that I just sold a few hours ago. And we're moving down the road. So, so kind of a crazy morning this morning. But anyway, by profession, I am a registered nurse, and most of the time in my practice as a nurse over the last 25 years has been in emergency medicine. So I don't know, I went into nursing because I always just had this really deep desire to want to help people. I didn't always know what that looked like. I mean, I did several different things as a nurse. I did long-term care, OBGYN. I've done lots of different things, but like I said, primarily it was in the ER. I loved my job in the sense of that I loved to be able to help people. But the thing that I realized over time, having children, is that I was missing a lot of what was going on in their life. I mean, I would work 12, 14 hours a day, and typically, we would be short-staffed. My lunch would consist of maybe running as fast as I could into the break room, getting a scoop of peanut butter, eating that off the spoon, and heading back into work, right? So bathroom breaks were pretty minimal. And of course, in the ER, it was a very stressful environment.
And is this typical, do you think, over, a profession, like over the nursing, the ER, environment?
Yeah, and I don't always know that it's necessarily ER. I think that as a healthcare provider, and maybe even speaking, I don't want to just say it's only a woman thing, but I'm saying you tend to, at least I did, and I think it's kind of typical, is that everybody else comes first. You know what I'm saying? Like, my patients came first, even before, like I said, there would be times when I would not get a lunch break, or, it would just be that quick, whatever. It was just so, and I think that just seems to be typical, that you tend to put everybody else ahead of yourself, whether that's in your professional life. And this is something, like I said, more over the course of the last 10 years that I've learned, is that I would put everyone else ahead of myself, whether that was professional, whether that was with my kids, You know, and so I'm alluding, I'm giving you a hint of a little bit of, that I ended up getting a health diagnosis, that really changed my path from being in that ER, nurse to actually what I do now. So, oh yeah.
No, I'm sorry. So yeah, that is definitely, you know, the interesting part of your story is that, you know, you were in the healthcare setting and you ended up with, you know, you can go ahead and tell them what, what you had.
Yeah. So, in 2010, I was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. So from there, I ended up doing some treatments. I had six months of treatments and then additional 2 years of a maintenance therapy. So for 3 years, because of the environment that I worked in the ER setting, my oncologist really recommended that I did not work in that environment. So really for 3 years, I was without work.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go back to just a second, the day that I was diagnosed. So and this is where part of my story is I can't leave out the faith aspect of who I am, because it really, I think, changed from me being an ER nurse to what I do now. I came home that day, just remembering, you know, that moment, and just kind of staring out the window. And I heard myself just for a second say, God, why me? You know what I mean? Like, what have I done wrong? How did I get this? At the time, I was just shy of 36 years old. And I'm like, I'm healthy. I don't have, you know, I was an ideal weight. I was going to the Y almost every day. You know what I mean? Like there was, I couldn't come, you know, I mean, I was saying, why me? Like, how did this happen? And I heard God,
you know, you were seemingly making the right choices. You weren't a smoker. You
nope.
took care of yourself. You're young, you know, all these things. And it still ended up with this diagnosis.
Yes. And taking care of myself would have been what I thought I was doing at the time. And again, I've learned a lot since then, right? Whether that's stress management, whether that's taking certain supplements, whether that's different food choices, whether that's my mindset and the thoughts that I think. There is a lot that I learned that went into health that like I said, I thought I was healthy. And so when you kind of are able to look back, you see, oh, okay, I can see how some of my choices of not making my health a priority made a big difference in my health. Sorry. That's okay. I made my husband take our dog outside. Real life here, Tarrah. It's okay. Come here. Molly, Mason's here, please.
Sorry. We have a kid who needs
swimming.
One of them. Katie, you have to be quiet.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry to interrupt. No, go ahead.
No.
Say that there.
Yeah. So basically, that day, I heard myself say why, and I heard God say, I have not abandoned you. And so I realized that it wasn't something that I had necessarily done wrong. It wasn't some kind of a punishment or anything like that. It literally was just that it happened, right? And I had a choice to make that day. I decided I could either be mopey and depressed, or I could see that my cancer diagnosis could be a blessing instead of a curse. And so
that's such a great attitude. I just, you know, how you know, just changed so quickly. That thought process was probably something that really, I mean, probably was difficult, but you're right. How do you have to, I felt like you were at a point where you're like, okay, how am I going to use this?
Right. And that's kind of where I just made the decision. I was already feeling in the ER setting, I think, dissatisfied simply because I was seeing a lot of repeat people, right? I was seeing the same people with the same diagnosis, back with chest pain again, back with diabetes again. And I'm like, why are we not helping them? Why? I mean, yes, it's needed. Yes, you sometimes have to put those Band-Aids on things and get people stable.
Yep.
but where was the follow-up in the system? Where was the relationships being built? And that's really where I was already feeling that tug at my heart prior to this diagnosis, that I was like, man, is there a way that I can make a difference in these people's lives so that they are not coming back in with the same diagnosis over? I'm helping them acutely, but over the course of their life, if they're not making those changes, how? And I just really had that desire to help more than just put the band-aids on.
Right. No, that's really awesome that you had that desire, and and God put this in your life to show you a way to do that. Looking back, you can see that, and that's just so awesome that you've been able to help so many people through this. So tell me a little bit more about like what you went through with your 3 years experience of having this, and then the changes that you may have made because of that.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even know where to start. I didn't know where to begin. I had a friend who was a dietitian, and she came to my house and we just sat and we talked.
Mm-hmm.
And she went over some food choices that would be good to, fight cancer. And then she asked me a question. She said, well, we talked about, yes, that food was something, but she was very holistic in the sense of, as well, is that food is important and let's work on that. But she asked me some other questions. What kind of cleaners do you use? What are you putting on your skin? Do you remember this, Kim? You're a nurse. Your skin is your largest organ. What things are you cleaning your shower with that your feet are standing in? What are you spraying in your home? And are you using candles? And are you inhaling those things? All of that mattered to my health. And then she said, what kind of vitamin are you taking? And I said, well, I'm just taking something from Walmart. And she goes, throw that away. And I was like, and here's the thing. I knew her and I trusted her. And so she introduced me to Shackley, is basically what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And because I trusted her, I listened to what she said, and I started to slowly make those changes. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the cool thing. Do I have some kind of like, oh, I took this vitamin and I felt amazing? I don't necessarily have that story, because I started taking these vitamins and then boom, I started 6 months of chemotherapy, right? But what I do know is that my oncologist continued to give me amazing reports every time I went in for blood work. And out of all of the different treatments I had, only a couple different times did I have to take additional injections, which he said was rare. I mean, normally people are having to do this. And then as I continued, in this journey of being in the culture of learning from her, being in the Shackley environment, my mind just really began to open up to where I was starting to think differently. That mindfulness and just really, I think just being in that community and that culture of people that were really focused on making health a priority for themselves, but also for their families and their communities around them. I think that all of that played a part into me being healthier and wanting to help other people continue on this kind of a journey, instead of being, like I said, in that ER role. So.
And I think stress is something that we overlook quite a bit as
Mm-hmm.
well, and how that does affect us negatively and positively. But in your case, with being an ER nurse, I feel like that could have a lot of negative stress on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure if that is something that is why your doctor had asked you to not work, or, was it stress that could hinder your recovery, or,
Mm-hmm.
did he ever say why he didn't necessarily want you to work?
Yeah, just because what we discussed at the time would have been the medications that I was taking would have lowered my immune system, and you just don't know what's going to come in the door in the ER. So because of that, he's, I could have probably tried to do a different type of job. But here's the cool thing. Inadvertently, as I begin to live out my passion in a different way, meaning different as in not being a nurse in the ER, and really starting to share and talk with other people about not getting into the situation maybe that I've been in, looking at prevention and supplements and what kind of products are you putting on your skin. And because of that, I ended up accidentally having a Shackley business, which led to me being able to have some supplemental income while I went through the 3 years of treatments.
Right. So you, as you were sharing what, these things that you were finding out along the way, you were making an accidental income. While
Correct.
we're not working.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Which happens to a lot of
Yeah.
people, not necessarily in that position, but that's what can happen. I know it's happened to teachers, it's happened to people who have full-time jobs, and they just don't realize, by sharing with a few people how that can add up to, a little extra change there. So, which came at a great time for you since you weren't able to do what you were previously doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to make sure that I was taking care of my health. The brand or the type of supplements that I was choosing. I mean, that's my, in a sense, that's my insurance policy for me. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, if I wanted to make sure that, there were some things that I chose to give up that used to be a part of my everyday life. Like, let's say, I would go to a candle party, or I would go to a bag party, whatever. And I redirected my spending in a sense to the things that were important to me, because when you are faced with a diagnosis like that, and you're looking at your kids who are in 7th grade and a freshman, and you're saying to yourself, am I going to see them graduate? I didn't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so for me, the thing that I want to invest in most, besides, my relationship, what I'm saying, like my relationships, my faith is extremely important, but my health is right up there as a top priority, where it wouldn't have been in the past. And so I redirect those things that I used to think were important that I had to have. I redirect that spending into investment in my health, because if I'm not here, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get to, make that impact in others' lives and part of my children's life, and hopefully grandchildren one day. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. It was a really easy thing for me to say that this is my priority, and I'm going to make this, important in my, daily life. So. Yeah,
no, it's just something that I don't think enough of us think about or consider until we're faced or confronted with, maybe it's even something like what you were faced with, or some kind of a real pain point to make those changes, because, we kind of just float through every day and just thinking, well, it'll be there the next day. And that. So I totally, respect that you took this as an opportunity to do those changes, to make those changes, because so many people don't. So many people don't take the time to consider it prior. And then also when they do go through something like that, they don't even consider really a different way to approach it or go about it afterwards. So I appreciate you, mentioning that. And yeah, tell me a little bit more about just your faith and your family and where you live. And I know you're moving, but a little bit more about how that all came into play with your healing process as well.
Yeah. So that's funny. Today at the closing, the people that were buying our house said, "Oh, we heard that you had a health story." And so I shared, and she goes, "How long have you been in remission?" And I said, "Well, I'm healed," unless somebody tells me different. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, so I'm an empty nester now, which is so weird. We just quote downsized, I guess, today. And so we are moving a half mile down the road. I'm trying to remember what else you asked me. I'm so sorry. Oh, faith. Yeah. So you asked about my faith. Well, I did share, like in the beginning, after that diagnosis, that I really just felt like this was a way for me to partner with God. And I think in the traditional setting that I was in, it was harder for me to really truly be me. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I felt like it was a lot of paperwork. It was following somebody else's lead. where when I work with my customers and clients now, it's a true relationship building thing. And sometimes we pray together, and sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like I just really feel like I can let God be the authority and lead in that. And so I really like that flexibility and freedom to be able to run my business and how I want to impact and help other people my way. And I don't mean that in a rebellious sort of way. I just mean it that I just love that freedom and that flexibility to be able to be who I feel like God's calling me to be in other people's lives.
Are you reading the God Dare book?
I am.
You are, okay. Because
Yeah,
I just feel like you are
I've only
out
gotten,
in front.
I think, the first chapter, but
Okay,
yeah.
well, I mean, I feel like you're out in front of that one, because I think, you know, that was some of the questions in the book, was like, how are you partnering with God and those things. So you've already lived that, girl. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have taken that triple dog dare and you walked through it already. So I think you're going to really enjoy the next few chapters, let's just say. But yeah, so that's awesome, because our master coordinator, or somebody who in Shaklee who was high up for 40 years or so, had given us this opportunity to do a book study together online on Facebook or Zoom. And we are doing Kate Battistelli's book, The God Dare, and it's pretty amazing to read, but it's really amazing that we get to connect with people who we would never have connected with, and to talk about our faith and to talk about what we find, and just, you know, invest in each other's lives, as well as, you know, be able to pour into others that we meet. And so I really appreciate the culture of the community and of the company that we're in, that we're able to do that. And so I know that's important to me, and I'm sure as important as is to you too. So yeah, I really if anybody's interested in taking a look at a company that they want to partner with to build a business, maybe you're in the health field, or maybe you're in a role that you just feel like there's something more that you could do and that you have a passion for. Because what you have to have, one, like Kim said, is passion. You have to really want to change things about yourself and be open to that, as well as helping others do the same. So I think that's something that I've learned more and more, is the more I change, the more I'm going to be able to help someone else. So yeah. And Kim, is there anything that you would like to just touch on, that maybe some advice that you'd like to give someone in the health field that might be looking for that same kind of, like, those thoughts that were running through your head, you know, why are these people, you know, where's that relationship, those things? What advice would you give them about maybe looking at this as a possible source of income and way that they can help and live out their passion?
Yeah, well, a couple things. First, isn't necessarily so much on the entrepreneurship, but I think I alluded to that a lot of times healthcare workers are the last people to take care of themselves. Like everybody else, patients come first, family comes first. And I guess I want to challenge you or challenge them in a sense to really make their own personal health a priority. Because I always think of it like, I used to think that it was something that was selfish, almost kind of like, well, you know, I'm not a good whatever unless I'm, you know, pouring out all the time, right? And so I always think about it like, you know, when you're on an airplane and you see the thing come down with the oxygen mask, right? If you're a mom, or they have a picture of the mom and the child beside, they say, put your oxygen mask on first, and then you can put your child's on. And so there's wisdom in that, right? So there's also wisdom in that as a healthcare professional, that you know, taking care of yourself is important. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be complex. Like the things that I do on a daily basis are simple, healthy habits that I've incorporated into my everyday. It's an easy place to start. You know what I mean? Just a few healthy habits. And that's kind of like what you and I are here for, to help guide people. Like, we've been through this process. We may have trialed and errored some things. And so I think it's like, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to know everything. And it's okay to ask for help for somebody that's already kind of walked that path ahead of you. So that would be one thing, is to make your own personal health a priority. And then you can be there to show up better for your family, for your patients, for your coworkers, that type of thing. So that'd be one. Secondly, thinking about entrepreneurship. So I struggled in the beginning. Not that I didn't love this business and what I was doing, but I had this mental block thing going on. And the mental block was when I was thinking about doing this business full time, the Shackley business full time, I had this thing that was telling my head, you have a degree, Kim. I mean, you're a nurse, and you were an ER nurse, and you were a house supervisor, and like this, I would say that it was probably an ego thing, or maybe it was fear holding me back, but I was using the excuse that I had this degree and that I needed to use it this certain way, right? Mm-hmm. That there was only one way to use my degree, and that was to be employed by a hospital or employed by a doctor. And so that was a challenge that I had to take off of my plate, was that me saying to myself, Kim, you have a degree. The second thing is what would people think? Mm-hmm. Like, what are people going to think of me if I am doing this business, right? Like, why would she not be working for a doctor, or why would she not be working in the ER? Or, and so I think those were a couple of things that were rolling around in my head that I had to overcome. Mm-hmm. And I think the really cool thing is I think that most healthcare people get into this because they want to truly help other people. And I have found that my reach is so much bigger through a Shackley business and being an entrepreneur. And it yes, professionally, but also personally. I mean, at the time, because of my Shackley business, now I do this full time, right? Just in the past year, this is the only thing I do from home, which right now is in my window here, because I don't currently have an office.
No,
I'm working from my window.
And that's the great thing; you can do it anywhere.
I can. I've done business in my car, traveling to Georgia on vacation. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I've got myself off track.
That's okay. No. No, that's okay.
What was I saying?
You were talking about the second part of being the entrepreneur, not like, what would people think, and like that was holding you back from the fear and the mindset. But I think you wrapped that up. And there
was something else, and
there was something else.
Yeah, there was, but it will come back.
And you know what? It'll come back.
I know what I was saying. I was saying that that doing this business this way has allowed me to help people in a different way, on a more personal level, but it also has allowed me to help like family. So for 4 years, my husband's father lived with us, and we took care of him. He had fallen and had some actually bleeding on his brain, and we moved him in with us, and I was able to, because of the supplemental income, I was able to go down to working just part-time, because after the 3 years off of work, I did go back to a doctor's office, a lot less stress. Mm-hmm. And I did do that for about 5 years. Mm-hmm. But I was able to only have to work part-time, and so I was able to be there for his doctor's appointments, for his whatever, because I had this extra income that was allowing me to not feel bad about only working 2 days a week or taking an extra day off. Mm-hmm. And so it allowed me to be there and help in the way that I mean, it's, we had him for 4 years and then he passed away. Like, I can never get back those 4 years. And that, was precious to me, especially, even thinking about being there for my kids, mm-hmm. And, my future grandkids and all that kind of thing. I think,
what a gift that you gave to your family by being able to serve in that role. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not feeling like you had to take time off of work to do so, or to, put your family in a financial bind to do so. You had that income,
right.
You had that covered. So, and just what a blessing that was for him, to have someone take care of him in that way that was family, and that you were able to surround him, so that's a great opportunity for people who might be in that same situation too, and are looking at that you know, in a little bit down the road, or are in that current situation. But yeah, that's amazing that you had that opportunity.
Yeah. And something else that now that I'm more in this empty nester stage, I never really thought that this is retirement income for me. Like this, and it's something that I don't have to retire from. Like I love to show up to the office every day. Do you see what I'm saying? Like I don't dread Monday mornings. I don't, it's a completely different type of feeling. Like just to be able to like have that freedom, have that flexibility, and to know that it's not something that I want to retire from. I don't want to retire from doing this business. And it's nice because it can travel with me and be portable. But I think that, a lot of times there were mornings I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go into work today, where I don't have that feeling doing business this way. Yeah.
For sure. Well, if anything that I've said to the audience here, if you that are watching even have the slightest interest in becoming an entrepreneur or about what we do, I feel free to reach out to me or to Kim and, inquire about it, set up an appointment with us, and we'd be happy to show you like the things that you could learn, or, have an evaluation just to see if this is something that is right for you. If it's not, it's not. If it is, we can show you what we offer, what systems we use, and, how we create sales without selling, and what the products actually are. Also, the options are for getting started. And so, if you have any interest in that, reach out to either one of us and we'd be happy to show you that. But I just said thank you, Kim, for taking time to, in the middle of moving and buying a house and today,
Yeah.
everything, to be able to speak with us this afternoon and to let us in and share your health story with us and kind of your journey. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for tuning in to Tarrah TV. Until next time.